Welcome, lost traveler. Please don't be afraid. Everything is going to be alright. I'm here to offer you salvation. I'm here to... I'm here to... You know what? Screw it. Welcome back, beautiful people. Initially presented as a villain, Aponia is one of the most misunderstood flamechasers. After learning more about her, it quickly became obvious that she is not evil. In fact, she might be one of the most good-hearted among the flamechasers. But like a bad comedy, she is the personification of the saying, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions." This is the story of the most misunderstood flamechaser, Aponia. The easiest way to understand the character is to look at what is the inspiration behind it. In Aponia's case, we have multiple elements that we can take a look at. First, her nun outfit. Nuns are always associated with kindness, helping the people in need and... Wait, these are the wrong nuns. Give me a second. Good. These are the right ones. Sorry about that. As I said, nuns are women who vow to dedicate their lives to religious service. In Aponia's case, her appearance is meant to suggest her commitment and dedication to helping others. Another thing we can take a look at is the name of her battlesuit. Disciplinary perdition. Perdition means a state of eternal damnation, or hell, reflecting Aponia's endless struggle to change fate, but ultimately failing. The concept of hell is more than a symbol of her inner struggles and guilt. There are many types of hell in different cultures and religions, but the one I found the most interesting concerning her character is Gehenna, the abode of the damned in the afterlife in Jewish and Christian eschatology. It is named after the valley of Hinnom, a place where children were sacrificed by burning as offerings to pagan gods. Why is this relevant to Aponia? You'll find out later. And of course we need to talk about the Honkai beast that Aponia fused with. In the game it is referred as Midoro. But since we know that Honkai beasts are mainly named after Hindu gods, we can track that name back to Mitra, a god whose meaning and interpretation changed through the history of Hinduism. The first interpretation is the guardian of truth and order, while the second one is that of a deity of friendship who abhors all violence. This is very reflective of how Aponia acts. She never engages in any form of violence, not even against the Honkai, even though she is capable of it. In her fight with Mei, Aponia mentions that she would never truly hurt her, though, interestingly, there are instances in which Aponia showed that she's willing to get her hands dirty if needed, like when she told Mei that she will kill her if Mei will ever take advantage of Griseo. Aponia is a psychic mantis. Psychic mantises are described as non-combatants, though there are exceptions, whose powers revolve around the human mind. They often possess abilities that are utility-based, like telekinesis, clairvoyance, mind control, and so on. Aponia is special in this regard because she had her powers even before becoming a mantis. The surgery only enhanced her already existing powers. The two primary powers she displays in the game are her discipline and the ability to see people's fate. Now, as tempting as it sounds, trust me, you don't want to be disciplined by Aponia. Her discipline is a form of autosuggestion on crack rather than simple mind control. It's a very mysterious power that caught the eyes of the moth. Dr. Mei even asked Aponia to put a discipline on her in order to research it. What she discovered was that the discipline, besides being a form of suggestion that binds the bearer to comply with whatever Aponia tells them, can also enhance bodily functions and help people heal and recover faster. There have been many studies and experiments about how our health and body functionality is closely tied to our state of mind. Aponia's powers can stimulate the human mind to its absolute limits, affecting how the body works in the process. Another byproduct of the research on Aponia's discipline is swara, a procedure that enhances the brain signals of a person in order to strengthen the body and mind. Aponia implies that her discipline has some regulator that prevents the human body from harming itself. Swara, on the other hand, was developed without any of these regulators, and it's much more dangerous. That's the reason why many who underwent the experiment went mad or died. Hua was the only survivor. Aponia can also see people's fate. She describes this ability as seeing a set of strings going in a certain pattern. She can interpret and discern different events in someone's life, and she says that that is usually the easiest thing to interpret. It's important to know that besides her discipline and clairvoyance, she has many more powers like reading minds, levitating, and more. To understand how Aponia uses her powers, we need to understand her past. Remember that I mentioned Gehenna and children being sacrificed by burning? Well, here's how that's relevant to Aponia. We don't know much about her past before joining the Moth, but one place has an important role in her story: Sundown Alley. During the restless attack of the Honkai, Aponia worked at a sanatorium in Sundown Alley. There, she brought in and helped children infected by the Honkai. But unfortunately, her good intentions led to tragedy. Because of the large number of infected, it was a given that the sanatorium was a ticking time bomb, and not much time passed before an outbreak occurred. Even the moths were involved. As things escalated into chaos, Sakura fought with Kalpas for the first time during that incident, making things even worse in that situation. Kalpas was also in Aponia's care at that time. In the end, everything was destroyed in flames, and all the children in Aponia's care died that day. Sundown Alley literally turned into a hell that day, and Aponia lost everything in that tragedy. The guilt scarred her deeply, and she felt responsible for what happened. Of course, the moths took advantage of the situation and brought Aponia in. Besides their interest in her powers, they found her highly suspicious. After interrogating her, they sent Aponia to undergo the metamorph surgery, hoping that she will survive and they will be able to control her. Unfortunately for them, Aponia was never confined by the moths. In fact, she caused more trouble for them in the end. Before going any further, please subscribe to the channel and please give the video a thumbs up if you like the content and want to see more videos. After joining the Moth, Aponia locked herself in the Deep End, a high-security prison where she continued to use her discipline to ease the people's pain. She remained there until Kevin brought her out after the tragedy of binding. The guilt of what happened in Sundown Alley was weighing on her, and Aponia isolated herself to atone for her sins. There, she started using her discipline even more. In her eyes, even if she was feared and hated because of that, the restraints brought by her discipline were necessary. She saw freedom as something that leads humanity to evil. She chose to restrain the people to keep them stable. But even after applying a discipline, human nature still seeped out and led to evil time and time again. The best example of this is Rin's death in the previous era. Rin was killed by a group of moth soldiers that fear her because she was the host of the 12th Herrscher. Even if she never displayed any signs of malice, the idea of a Herrscher lurking behind the walls of the moth brought fear and despair. Later, it was revealed that those people were under the influence of Aponia's discipline. She put a simple discipline on them: never give up the fight against the Honkai. But this also fueled their negative emotion towards the Honkai, to the point where they killed Rin even though she didn't do anything wrong at that point. This was one of the many times that Aponia's good intentions led to tragedy. But even if what she did could be seen as wrong, it didn't matter to her. Her actions were just a means to an end. And even if she had to do some things that were seen as evil, if the end result could help people, she would not hesitate to do it. When the flamechasers decided to create the Elysian Realm, they used Aponia and Sue's psychic powers to construct the data space. In a discussion between Sue and Aponia, we found out that Sue fell unconscious during the process and Aponia completed the Elysian Realm by herself. This is relevant because her fate was never explained. We know that she was one of the few flamechasers that lived to the end. She never engaged the final Herrscher on the moon and chose to stay behind and use her powers to ease the suffering of the people, even going as far as making them forget their regrets and painful memories. But what happened after that? Well, it is heavily implied that Aponia fused with the Elysian Realm itself. We know the fates of many flamechasers, but her end was never mentioned. Instead, and please note that this is more of a theory based on breadcrumbs that we got from the Elysian Realm, she fused her consciousness with the realm to remember her. Her, in this case, refers to Elysia. This could mean that the Aponia we see in the realm, even if she doesn't have a physical body anymore, could be the consciousness of the real Aponia. Again, this is not something confirmed, but highly suggested. Honkai likes to do this thing where it only gives you some pieces of the puzzle and lets you put the other pieces together by yourself. But why Elysia? At the end of chapter 3 of Elysian Realm, we found that Elysia was the 13th Herrscher of the previous era and that the secret hidden by Aponia was the Elysian Everlasting, a memory space based on Elysia's life. Aponia's sole reason for merging with the Elysian Realm was to preserve that place. Elysia meant a lot to her. She was a special soul that treated everyone with kindness and sincerity. She was also the first to accept and understand Aponia, saying that everything she did was out of goodness. Aponia says that she was unable to see Elysia's fate. Was it because she was a Herrscher, or maybe she wasn't even human to begin with? At some point, Elysia decided to become the greatest evil to unite the remaining flamechasers and planned to die in the process. Similarly to how May acted during the fake prophecy Aponia told her in chapter 3, Elysia took her fate into her own hands and chose how she will live until her final moments. A common theme throughout the Honkai series is the struggle of humanity against fate, and both Elysia's and May's characters showcase this struggle very well. After seeing May making the same decision, Aponia finds her worthy to know the truth about Elysia and Elysium Everlasting. Aponia, like many of the flamechasers, is a tragic character. In chapter 29, Eden mentions that Aponia is a giver, referring to the fact that through her discipline, she gives hope and a path forward to the masses. Elysia points out that all the flamechasers are flawed, but they were the only ones who appeared at that time. Aponia's actions can be seen as both good and evil, right and wrong, helpful or extreme, but in her eyes, they were necessary. She was burdened by guilt, the pain of loss, and suffering from seeing the fate of the people around her and being unable to do anything to change it. She did her best in her own way until the end. Even if it led to even more suffering, she never gave up on helping others around her. She is a gentle and kind soul that would take upon the suffering of the masses because, in her opinion, there was no one other than her that could do that. A splendid character who deserves more recognition and appreciation for her character and not just character design.